In the summer of 1887, the dusty streets of Willow Creek, Montana Territory, buzzed with the usual rhythm of cattle drives and saloon chatter. But on that sweltering afternoon, when the sun hung like a blacksmith's forge overhead, the entire town ground to a halt. Sheriff Harlan Wade stood on the wooden boardwalk outside the saloon, his badge glinting, his face thunderdark. Across the street, in the shadow of the livery stable, stood Caleb Thorne, a lean, quiet rancher whose spread lay 20 miles north, a place known more for its hard-won peace than for drama. Caleb had just uttered four words that would echo through the territory for years. Do it right here. And the whole town was outraged. It began with the arrival of a stranger on the noon stagecoach. She was young, no more than 22, with dark hair tangled from the long journey and eyes hollowed by exhaustion. Her name was Maria Reyes, though most would never learn it. She stepped down clutching a worn shawl and a small bundle, her dress torn at the hem from a fall during the ride. The driver helped her, but his face was grim. Whispers spread like prairie fire. She was the daughter of a Mexican vaquero who'd been shot dead by rustlers near the border, left with nothing but debts and a child she carried inside her. The stage had brought her to Willow Creek because it was the last stop before the mountains, and she had no money for a ticket farther. She had nowhere to go. The town had rules, unwritten but ironclad. No vagrants, no indigents, no foreigners without means. The mayor, a stout man named Elias Crow who owned half the businesses on Main Street, stepped forward first. "Miss," he said, voice booming for the gathering crowd, "you can't stay here. We've got no charity house, no work for. You're kind. Best you turn around." Maria's hand rested protectively on her belly. She said nothing, but her silence spoke louder than any plea. That's when Caleb Thorne, who'd come into town to sell a string of horses, pushed through the crowd. He was 38, widowed 5 years earlier when fever took his wife and infant daughter in the same week. He'd buried them on the hill behind his cabin and never remarried, never spoke of it. Folks said the land had hardened him, but those who knew him better said it had simply taught him to keep his own counsel. He looked at Maria, then at the mayor, then back at the woman. Something in her eyes, resignation mixed with quiet defiance, struck him like a brand. "She's staying," Caleb said simply. The mayor laughed, a harsh bark. "Thorne, you can't take in every stray that blows in. Town rules." "I said she's staying," Caleb repeated. "With me? On my ranch." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Men shifted uneasily. Women clutched their children closer. The sheriff stepped forward. "Caleb, think this through. She's in a family way. Folks will talk. It'll look improper." Caleb met the sheriff's gaze without flinching. Improper will be letting a woman and her unborn child starve in the street. "If anyone wants to make trouble over it, they can come see me." He turned to Maria. "You got a name?" "Maria," she whispered, barely audible. "Maria," he repeated, as if tasting the word. Then, louder for the town, "Do it right here." The words hung in the air. Do what? No one was sure at first, but the outrage erupted like a stampede. The mayor sputtered about decency, about scandal, about how Caleb was inviting trouble by harboring a Mexican woman with no husband in sight. Whispers turned to shouts. "He's bringing shame on the town. What kind of example is that? We'll boycott his cattle." Women crossed themselves, men spat in the dust. Caleb didn't argue. He simply offered Maria his arm. She took it, hesitant at first, then with a small nod of gratitude. They walked to his wagon, the crowd parting like water before a plow. As they drove out of town, the silence behind them was heavier than any storm. The first days on the ranch were awkward quiet. Caleb's cabin was small, 2 rooms, a lean-to kitchen, a porch that looked out over rolling grasslands dotted with his Hereford cattle. He gave Maria the bedroom, took the cot in the main room himself. He spoke little, but he worked hard, chopping wood, mending fences, milking the 2 dairy cows he'd kept for his own use. Maria watched him from the window, unsure what to make of this man who had claimed her without claiming anything else. She cooked simple meals of beans, tortillas she made from cornmeal she found in the pantry, eggs from the chickens. He ate what she made without complaint, even thanked her once, gruffly. She learned his routines quickly. He rose before dawn, rode out to check the herd, returned for midday meal, worked until dark. At night he sat on the porch with a pipe, staring at the stars. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in fire, Maria joined him. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why did you do it?" Caleb puffed on his pipe. "Had a wife once. She was carrying our child when the fever came. I couldn't save her. Couldn't save the baby. Figured if I could save one, maybe it balances the scales a little." Maria's eyes filled. "You didn't have to." "Didn't have to," he agreed. "But I wanted to." The town didn't forget. Letters appeared nailed to Caleb's gate. Send her away or pay the price. A delegation rode out one Sunday after church. Mayor Crow, the sheriff, the preacher. They stood in the yard, hats in hands, faces stern. "Thorne," the mayor began, "we're giving you one last chance. Send the woman packing. We don't want trouble." Caleb leaned against the porch rail, arms crossed. "Trouble's already here, Elias. Trouble's what happens when good folks look the other way." The preacher cleared his throat. "It's not Christian, Caleb. Living with an unmarried woman. She's got a roof, food, and respect." Caleb cut in. "That's more Christian than letting her die in the street." The delegation left angry, but they didn't force the issue. Not yet. Then came the unexpected turn. Late one night, a storm rolled in, violent, the kind that could flood creeks and scatter herds. Lightning cracked like gunfire. Maria woke to find Caleb gone. She found him in the barn, helping a cow deliver a calf that had come breech. The animal was in distress. The calf was twisted. Caleb's shirt was soaked with sweat and blood, his hands steady as he worked. Maria didn't hesitate. She'd helped her father birth calves on their old rancho. She rolled up her sleeves, knelt beside him, and guided his hands. Together they saved both mother and calf. When it was over, the calf stood wobbly on new legs, nosing its mother. Caleb looked at Maria, saw the strength in her, the quiet courage. "You saved them," he said. "We saved them," she corrected. In that moment, something shifted. Not love, not yet, but respect. Deep, bone-level respect. Word of the birth spread, as things do in small towns. The calf was a strong bull, and Caleb named it Reyes, after Maria. Folks noticed. Some softened. Others hardened. The real storm came a month later. Rustlers hit the ranch hard. They drove off nearly a third of Caleb's herd under cover of darkness. He tracked them to a box canyon, found their camp. There were 5 men, armed and mean. Caleb rode in alone, rifle across his saddle. "Those are my cattle," he said calmly. "I'm taking them back." The leader laughed. "You're a fool, Thorne, and you're outnumbered." Caleb's voice never wavered. "I reckon I am, but I got a woman and a child on my ranch depending on me. I ain't leaving without what's mine." The rustlers hesitated. One of them, a young man, barely 20, spoke up. "Heard about you, Thorne. Heard you took in that Mexican girl. Folks say you're crazy." Caleb shrugged. "Folks say a lot." The standoff stretched. Then, from the ridge above, hooves thundered. Riders poured down, 20, maybe more. Townsmen, the sheriff, even Mayor Crow. They weren't there to help the rustlers. They were there to help Caleb. The rustlers surrendered without a shot fired. Later, in town, the mayor pulled Caleb aside. We talked it over. Figure a man who'd risk his life for his herd, and for a woman he ain't even married to, deserves better than what we gave him." Caleb looked at him. "You didn't come for me. You came for what's right." The mayor flushed. Maybe both. Maria's time came in the dead of winter. The snow was deep, the roads impassable. Caleb rode through the blizzard to fetch the doctor, but the doctor was out of town. He came back alone, heart pounding. Maria labored through the night, her cries echoing off the cabin walls. Caleb stayed by her side, holding her hand, whispering encouragement he barely believed himself. When the baby, a girl, finally arrived, healthy and wailing, Maria wept with relief. Caleb cut the cord, wrapped the child in a blanket, and placed her in Maria's arms. He sat beside them, exhausted, tears tracking through the dust on his face. "She's beautiful," he said. Maria looked at him. "She needs a name." Caleb thought of his lost daughter, the one he'd never held. "Hope," he said. "Her name is Hope." The town came around slowly. First, a few women brought food, pies, bread, jars of preserves. Then men came to help rebuild the fence the storm had damaged. The preacher performed a quiet ceremony on the porch one spring morning, marrying Caleb and Maria under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. The whole town was there, not outraged this time, but humbled. They had seen kindness in action, selfless, stubborn, transformative. They had seen what happened when one man refused to let the world stay cruel. Years passed. The ranch grew. Caleb and Maria had 2 more children, boys who ran wild and free across the grasslands. Hope grew into a bright-eyed girl who helped her mother in the kitchen and rode beside her father checking fences. The town never forgot the day Caleb Thorne said, "Do it right here." They told the story around fires, in saloons, at church suppers. It became legend, not of guns or gold, but of a single act of compassion that changed everything. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't to fight an enemy with bullets. It's to stand up and say, "This is where kindness lives." And when enough people witness that stand, even the hardest hearts begin to soften. In the end, Willow Creek wasn't known for its scandals or its storms. It was known as the town where one rancher's quiet defiance taught everyone that humanity isn't measured by rules or borders or bloodlines. It's measured by the choices we make when no one else is looking and the courage to make them right here, right now.